for the book.
All right, we are about to go live.
Sure.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are live
Good afternoon.
from Grenada. About to share with our audience in Grenada, in the diaspora, wherever you're tuning in from, some readings from our books. And we are 4 Grenadian authors. 3 of us are based in Grenada, and 1 is actually in New York, in the United States. So I want to welcome the panel. I am David Ambrose, a Grenadian author and educator. And I'm going to ask each member of the panel to introduce himself. We have with us Fitzerald Naka Joseph, Anthony DeRiggs, who is in New York, and Roger Byer, who is in the parish of St. George's. So welcome, gentlemen. So before we get into readings and discussions, you know we have a lot to talk about. A real thing to talk about, man. And this is readings and old talk, serious old talk. Not rum shop old talk, but serious old talk. So let me ask you to say a bit about yourselves before we get into some readings and then some discussions. So Naka, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'm Fitzerald Naka Joseph. But everybody call me Coach Naka Joseph. Most people are just Naka Joseph. I hail out of the parish of St. John's. If you want to use your French, it could be Pariso del Lanzguayave, which is the same thing as Guave. People doesn't understand. Guave is a tongue right now, but Guave used to be the parish. Lanzguayave used to be the parish of which is now St. John's. And I'm a martial artist, basketball coach, turn writer in a sense. So basically, that's what I am right now.
Thank you, Coach. Wendell?
Yes, okay. Anthony Wendell DeRiggs, and most Grenadians know me as Wendell. In fact, if I go to Grenada, people already call me Anthony. So I left Grenada years ago. I taught there at the St. John's Christian Secondary School for a number of years, preparing classes for the GC examination. Came to New York and Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn presently. I retired from the American Red Cross a couple of years ago. After I got sick, and I said, well, look, but it's time to hang up my shoes. So I'm into the business of writing books, telling of our history, our culture. And I have had enormous support from Grenadians, many on Facebook, because they love to hear our stories that have been buried for years. I resurrect them. I like what I do. I continue doing it. And it's just a whole lot of appreciation and love that I have for my people. I was born in St. George's, but I'm a tongue boy and a country boy because I taught in Guave. I used to be in Sauterres, all over the place. And that's about it.
Nice, thank you. Roger?
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Roger Byer. I'm a Grenadian, born on Scott Street in St. George's. So I'm a tongue boy. Don't try and get away from that at all. I went to Heinze School and Wesley Hall for primary education. I went to GBSS twice because my family went away and came back to Grenada. So you could imagine how many schoolmates I have out there. I represented Grenada in both cycling and sailing for a number of years. Some people may remember me from those times. I joined the US Army in the height of the Vietnam War and served in Vietnam and Cambodia in an infantry line company as a combat medic. One of my books, Tattooed Memories, is based on that experience. I went to flying school on the GI Bill when I came back and became a commercial pilot. I flew with Liat for a while, a couple of years, based in Antigua and Barbados. Then I flew for Tropical Air Services, flying celebrities to Mustique. And then my last flying job, I was Maurice Bishop's personal pilot, flying his Cheyenne 2 aircraft. Later, I went into real estate. I'm semi-retired now, but I still grapple with some real estate. And I'm still trying to write books. I published 2 books, Tattooed Memories, which is my Vietnam experience, and the other is called Granny's Bathroom. It's a 15-story compilation of growing up in Grenada as a boy and some fiction. I'm in a group with David, Grenadian, published authors. We're trying to take writing forward in the country, and I'm happy to be here with you guys today.
Thank you, Roger. So, as I said at the top, I'm David Ambrose. I am an educator by profession. I'm a lecturer at the T.A. Marshall Community College. I'm actually in charge of I'm the chair of the Department of Arts, Humanities, and General Studies. I like writing. I've always loved writing, and it was only, I suppose, fairly recently decided, within the last 10 years, I decided, hey, if I like writing so much, why don't I try my hand at publishing? So then I published my first book, White Spice, in 2015. 3 years later, I published a novella, that time in Bogles, a Caracou Tale. And then a year after that, I published a short story called Zone 1. So as Roger said, a few of us authors got together and we formed a group called Grenadian Published Authors. And it's just to support each other because the literary scene in Grenada is not an easy one. It's trying to encourage people to read more or to recognize Grenadian authors and the work that we do, and bring books in schools and things like that. One of the first, I suppose, objectives we had when a few of us started to meet in about 2016 or so was to bring a book fair or literary festival to Grenada. So we're always talking about that possibility. There's so many things that we could do to raise the nose of publishing in Grenada. A lot of people publish in this place, a lot of Grenadians. So we're going to talk about a few things. As I'm looking at the distinguished panel, hey, this is an activity that we should have been doing in a facility like a library, or even if it is in this atmosphere of the pandemic, something like a public library facility or system or organization could have facilitated an online event just like we're doing now. But we're doing it instead, so no worries. So we're going to get into some reading first before we start to talk about different issues. Naka, what do you have for us?
Yeah, well, I've really published 3 books. I'm coming from a historical side of things. My book is based on sporting history. I did the first book in 2012, which is From Tigers to Sparklers, which was covering the history of basketball in Grenada. And then after that, I went to the Energy of Goa, which sort of cover sports in the parish of St. John's. And I just completed the Grenadian Football Mystic, which sort of covers Peter Perry-Pong that much people in recent times have not really heard much about, but I thought he was a genius at what he did, so try to give him some special coverage there. But my reading would come from the Energy of Goa, which is out on the market, both it's on Amazon and you can get it here in Grenada locally. And I'm going to read something from the foreword of the book, which was done by Dr. Duncan Campbell, who was one of the top decathletes in the 1970s, 1976, I thought was a breakout year for he and Donald Byer at the Southern Games in Guacara Park, because at that time, Donald Byer would have defeated Fred Newhouse, who I think was either a reigning Olympian or maybe world champion at the time in the 400 meters. And Dr. Campbell would have defeated Bruce Jenner, who went on and won the decathlon in the Olympics, I think that very year, I think on 1976, subject to correction. But Grenada did not have Olympic status. in 76. They only got it in 1984. So at the time, even though Donald Byer and Dr. Campbell wanted to represent Grenada, because I think Trinidad was asking him to fly the flag for them, and he refused because he wanted to represent Grenada, and Grenada didn't have status, so he could not have done it. So I'll just read the forward from the Energy of God, like I say, which sort of covers the history of sports in the parish of St. John's from 1948 to present, and the forward was done by Dr. Dunson Campbell, retired food agricultural FAO representative, like I said, one of the top decathletes in the region. And he started by saying, nowadays the field of sport is recommended for several reasons, including health, recreation, and entertainment. This book focuses primarily on the history and the expansion of sports and sporting activities in the parish of St. John. The author presents the development of character and personality of the individual and recognition of sports administrators and communities as a whole. Highlighted in this publication are two themes: the history of sports in St. John's and the energy that sports generates. He went on further to say, in addressing the history, the book covers the evolution of sporting activities in the parish of St. John, recognizing outstanding sports personalities and sports administrators. The author skillfully makes the connection between sports in the parish and the rest of the nation. This approach links the themes of the book as the author moves the reader from a discussion on sports to one of interpretation of the achievements in sports and other endeavors in the parish of St. John. In the second theme, the author puts forward the theory for the achievement of the people of St. John's in the field of sport, notably for a town of just over maybe 8 to 10,000 inhabitants. Guav can proudly boast of having an Olympic gold medalist among its successes. The author claims there is an energy source, tangible and intangible, which drives the people of Guav, and sports is one of the expressions of that energy. For the people of St. John's, this book provoked nostalgia of the good old days and indeed pave a path for the future involvement and analytical work on sports. In addition, it can be used as an example to review sports and sporting activities. Certainly, a sporting reference to keep in your library. This book can be read again and again, and I'm going to stop here, I think, for now. And that is coming from The Energy of God, like I said, one of the books that I have.
I like that title, man. The Energy of God. We're tying that to the sports. Of course, the energy reaches out further than just about sports, but the book is based on the sporting heroes, real heroes.
Yeah, from 1948 to the present, I try to capture, But one of the things too, if are we gonna take the reading, or you want me to discuss anything from the book?
Well,
just something short, or you want to take the readings from everybody else?
Well, let me take some readings from everybody else.
Okay, and then maybe we could come back and okay,
Yeah,
no problem.
definitely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Definitely.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So when the
Yeah. Well, this book, we kind of talk, and I'm very happy to see how it's going. People have been buying the book, they like it, and it makes me feel happy. We kind of talk. Why I use the title "We Kind of Talk"? It is because we speak in a way. Over the years, much that came from various places in the world, we fuse things and we develop our own dialect. Some we copied from, well, of course, England. Most of us going to school, we are reading from Frost and Blake and Longfellow and all that stuff. But in the process of time, people went to different parts. Some people went to Aruba to work in the fields, the oil fields. Some people went to Panama. And as Alistair Hughes and others rightly say, they came back to Grenada. And in the process of time, I sort of a new language. We speak in ways that it is actually us. Like when you're on the airport or in the bank, somebody would, oh, how are you? Yeah. Queen's English. But when you meet somebody in Queen's Park and you look at a football game and you say, what happened there, boy? That's us. Okay, let me get here. Yeah. I'm going to read something that is dear to my heart. It's because it's something dealing with a true story. about my mother particularly here. And it's from a section of the book called From the Mouths of God-Fearing Parents. Now, one of the attributes of Grenadian, and indeed Caribbean parents, has been their belief in God. There were very strong references to God in many of their pronouncements. They insisted cleanliness is next to godliness, and God helps those who help themselves. Many recited the biblical line, "Give us this day our daily bread." And though they were poor, many shared whatever little they had in their possession. I mean, especially around Christmas time. Caribbean mothers stood out for their loving hearts. Miss Ivy, and this is true, a woman friend of my mother, she was the perfect example. A kind woman with a loving heart. She loved to share. From her heart, she gave us bread, our daily bread. And God is love. Now, this was a popular saying uttered by our parents, reinforcing their belief in a benevolent creator. And a story about love, a short story. He opened the cupboard and removed the cover of an old biscuit pan. Oh, the familiar smell of cocoa hit him first. There they were, balls of cocoa neatly wrapped up in a plastic bag. He opened the bag. Time had done nothing to reduce the scent. He looked at the cocoa balls and his mind raced back. It was love that caused his mother to send them to him in the first place. She heard about the winter in Brooklyn and she thought of him. She wanted to warm his soul and she could think of nothing better than hot chocolate or cocoa tea to do the job. She loved him. And when he left Grenada for America, a part of her left with him. But the Lord called her home in 1995. There he was standing before the cupboard thinking of her. Somehow, the balls of cocoa had escaped his prying eyes throughout the years. He had no explanation for that. The sea moss, the cloves, the mobby bark, the nutmegs, the cinnamon were all gone. He remembered the times in Grenada she had to fight with a coal pot to get it right so that his lunch should be ready when he returned home from school at the midday recess. He recalled the occasion cornmeal porridge was all they had before retiring at night. She resurrected thoughts of the big moth that came into the house one night and danced around the kerosene lamp. Yes, it was a frightening experience and everybody in the house ducked for cover except her. Something stirred in the pit of his stomach, a feeling of longing coupled with that of loss. But life was also about thankfulness and hope, and he was thankful for the wonderful mother he had. He stood in front of the cupboard and a tear fell to the floor. The tear fell as he reflected on the word love, from her favorite saying, God is love. It was a mother's love that made her think of him. It was a mother's love that caused her to give from the little she had. He looked at the handwriting on the written, still visible on the package. To my loving son, God is love. She was gone, but her handwriting was still faintly there. The handwriting endured like the cocoa. It stood the test of time. And he remembered the many times. And she wrote letters and she wrote letters of encouragement. He recalled the one that thanked him for the gift he had sent to her, the one that she cherished so much. But most of all, he remembered her favorite saying, God is love. He placed the bag of cocoa back in the cupboard. From We Carry That Dog, God is love. We say that.
We kind of talk. I had to get a book. I have to get a copy of that book because we teach a course called Language and Community, where we discuss our Grenadian language and how we all the expressions we use and things like that. Not just Grenadian language, but other Caribbean varieties of Creole English as well. So you can imagine reading. Can you imagine reading your two books in front of an audience live? You know, either in a big hall or in a library setting, school children asking questions about personalities who represented Grenada in sports, or what the language is like, or used to be like, or should be like, you know. And that is what I think, that's one of the reasons why I think we need our library back. So authors could perform, not just read, but perform. You ready to perform, Naka, before an audience? Tell us about, as you're telling us about your reading is not just reading. You know, just
No, in my case, it might be more of a discussion and reading. You see, what Mr. DeRiggs and maybe your writings, and I'm not sure too much about Raja. I need to get my hands on some stuff there. That would sort of go down well with the audience, but in case of my historical thing, I'm not sure if maybe I could have a more discussion or maybe more questions. I could read something out here, talk about different athletes, and maybe answer some questions as it relates to those athletes over the years, and why maybe I sort of put the information together, because it's something that I've been playing around a bit over the years, because our belief system has been eroded, and you could see it more so in sports when we go to perform, especially, well, it happens in Grenada as well. Sometimes when you leave from go to go and perform, even in St. George's, sometimes some of the athletes, I mean, they perform well at home, and when they get down to St. George's, it's a totally different story. Not because maybe a crowd, but whatever it is, just whatever, just create that fright within them, and they can't perform. Same things happen when they get outside of Grenada. And even make it even worse when they get on the international stage. Sorry. So that belief system, which has been eroded, that says foreign is always better, is something that I've been wrestling with for the longest while. And I think one of the things is that there was no recorded history, of the people that went before, who had competed against people at all levels, international levels, and were quite successful. So I thought it was necessary to put that together. And, hence the reason why we have the book now. But you was mentioning something about the library and the importance of it, and having people sit down there. And yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's important to have something like that, especially, I mean, the building itself, I think it's quite French in it, yeah? The building, is it not? The library, yeah. I think it's French architecture, right?
Yeah,
the French architecture?
The Georgian architecture.
Georgian. Okay. Right. So you have that architecture, and we have a lot of stuff in there. I went in there to do some research once, and I was trying to get some information on Donald Pierre when I was putting a book together, and I went into the archives, and I couldn't make 5 minutes inside there. I had to run out there. I mean, it's just... Wow.
When was that?
Yeah, it was just hot and hot. Exactly, it was hot and dusty, and I was going through some newspaper clippings to see, what I would get, from Torchlight and thing in the early times, and I just run out of there. I really didn't get much information. So yes, you need the library back, especially in this period of digitization, where we could digitalize most of that information, and have it up in digital form, so that even as the visitors would visit the museum, I think they could visit the library and see most of the stuff, old newspapers. We could sort of bring it to life, once again. So I think it is, it's a necessary venture that, whether government or whoever it is, we have a lot of donors out there. We have a lot of people donating stuff, especially towards library. I think if they could put that money towards that, is something that maybe, we could look at,
Yeah. That's something that. What's your take on that, Roger?
Yeah, well, I made some notes to talk about the library. I thought we would get to that a little further down the road, right?
Yeah, we get to that. Yeah, we get to that down the road. Yeah, yeah.
I have some suggestions and a couple of things.
Nice, nice. Yeah, man, we had to get into some serious discussion about that. But I wanted to ask, when in New York, do you get the opportunity to visit like the New York Public Library and any of those kind of facilities when you're up there?
Yes, but well, with the COVID, things have changed.
Right.
Yeah, which is expecting, you know, because it's changed all over the world. But libraries are big all over America, even China. China probably have the whole.
Yeah.
I mean, there was specifically thinking of Brooklyn where I live. There are so many libraries. I mean, libraries are so important. It's a bridge to knowledge. And even our mighty sparrow tells us that knowledge is power. But people who go to libraries and read, when they read, okay, they process knowledge, they begin to critique. You can't fool them easy. And not everybody likes somebody who reads. And you know, we have evidence of that in Julius Caesar. Because Julius Caesar didn't like Cassius. You know why? He said Cassius thinks too much and he reads too much. So reading is so important, and all effort must be made to have a library that, well, Naka, you might tell me what the condition is in Guelph, because I heard that Guelph has a very good library, and you might want to talk to that. I heard that. Yes, but all over Grenada, there should be libraries all over the place. Let the children, and the children library too, for the children.
Yeah, but one of the things, one of the things you have happening now, like I was mentioning to David earlier, and maybe that is why there isn't a push to get the National Library up and running, is because there's a sort of shift where you have libraries in almost all primary and secondary schools.
Yes, but
the only problem with that is that the books that you have there is not of Grenadian authors. So. It's coming from outside.
Well, you're coming on a topic that I know David would like, and I like it also.
Yeah,
Grenadian authors, and I'm so happy to see so many people writing books, so many Grenadians writing books.
Yeah.
I'm unhappy that some of the renowned writers, my uncle Jacob Ross, not my uncle, what I'm saying, my uncle, actually my father's brother, I should say, Jacob Ross, Merle Collins.
Yeah.
And we have writers, Dunbar Campbell, John Angus Martin, our adopted daughter, Beverly Steele, have written very, very good books, Holman Hall.
Yep.
But these books have to get to the Grenadian mind.
Correct.
The Grenadians have to seize the opportunity to read this book. When you read these books, you unlock our history.
Definitely. I'm gonna bring in Roger here.
Yeah, David, I was, now that we're talking so heavily on the library, I'm wondering if maybe I'm poised to read an excerpt, but you haven't called me. I don't know if you want me again.
Yeah.
But,
hold on, Wendell. Let's bring in Roger here, and then we'll get deeper into the library business. Yeah. Go ahead, Roger. Yeah.
Wondering whether I should give my input on the library now, or you want me to read my excerpt?
You could read your excerpt, and then we'll hear from you about the library. Yeah. So we'll
This is my second book, actually, Tattooed Memories. But because it's based in St. George's.
Granny's bathroom.
Read something from it. And as I said to you before, David, I always feel that it's good to read your book's introduction. I think it's even more important than an excerpt, because the introduction tells you what the book is about, how it came about, how you put it together, and the meaning of the book. The excerpt might be just a couple lines here or there that somebody may pick up or they may not remember, right? But Granny's Bathroom is a 15-story compilation that I put together primarily on my growing up events that took place when I grew up as a boy. I tried my hand at some fiction, and I broke the book down back, which is a stretch of the imagination in which I took live events and twisted them around, saying, suppose this is really what happened. And then I tried my hand at some fiction too. So just let me read the introduction. I was born in a house on Scott Street that was located close to the Anglican Primary School, popularly known as Heinzie School in St. George's, Grenada. Besides St. George's, the town is also referred to as the City of St. George's, due to the enactment of the St. George's Corporation Ordinance of 1961. Now, there's normally some confusion here. Some people tell you St. George, some people tell you St. George's, but it's actually both. Whereby the town of St. George's was constituted a municipal borough. Besides living on Scott Street, my family resided at a number of other town addresses, namely Halifax Street, Market Hill, Lucas Street twice, and at Woolwich Road in the Villa. So I consider St. George's to be my hometown. I also lived in Grenada as a boy, and the inspiration to write 2 of the book stories was developed there. Most of the stories of Granny's bathroom occurred in or around the town's alleyways, narrow streets, Carenage, Fort George, Sendall Tunnel, the Spout, Empire Cinema, Raffit Shop, the Guides Hut, the Fire Station, Sandy Island, the Esplanade, and Tantine. These were the book's stage props. These special places were frequented by colorful local characters that evoked memories of a way of life that has all but disappeared without a trace, except for the derelict buildings around town that languish abandoned and forsaken, merely mortar footprints reminiscent of better times. The St. George's I grew up in was an orderly and functional town, and it was also clean. I suppose the cleanliness existed because the town, a small center of commerce, was also residential. Some of the people who operated their businesses on the ground floor dwelled upstairs of the properties. We, the little boys of Granny's bathroom, had thought that we were catching our nenen back in those days. But looking back down memory lane now, it is clear to this writer that we were blessed as we lived life in our own unique fashion, in an environment where it was fun to be young at heart and okay not to have a clue most of the time as to what was really going on within, on the fringes of, or beyond our world. Granny's bathroom, the weapon, the welcome and the swim to Sandy Island, looking for Denny's Abraxas, Doggy's Revenge, Treehouse, up to the fort in a gang, Let's Sleep in Crates Lie, the matinee fee, and I Have It, are all true stories. The Fedor Illusion and What Really Happened to the Bianca Sea are stories that are based on actual events that took place in Grenada. In both of these tales, the initial storyline build-up describes true occurrences as they unfolded, but the reality is intentionally blurred as imaginary reconstructions of a suppose this was really what happened. Brown Dog and Jar Washer are creations based on characters we see on a daily basis, but pay scant attention to. Take the Money and Run and A Pirate Story are entirely fictional. So this is Granny's bathroom. You get in 15 stories broken down into 3 parts. And I must say, as I believe you have said to me, David, and a couple other people, I have Empire Cinema, the Spout, the Esplanade, and the Ice Factory, elements of our history that some young people today never knew existed. So I am a bit proud of this contribution, not only for people to buy a copy of my book, but for generations of Grenadians to come to appreciate.
Yeah, thank you. And that is one of the books I think, like you said, Roger, young people should try to get a hand on, as well as perhaps the Ministry of Education could recommend to schools to to get or to put in the hands of our students so they get to know about St. George's. I was in a workshop one time, I think it was facilitated by the GTTA, Grenadian Tourism Authority. And the facilitator, and the lady said, she was telling us tour guides, I want y'all to get your hands on this book. And she held up Roger's book, Granny's Bathroom. And said, no, but I have to get that book because it tells us about St. George's. It tells us about what St. George's look like, the streets, perhaps the events, what just all about St. George's. And I was really happy that I got it.
David, what it does too is I have found people have told me that it's not just only my story, it's a lot of other people's stories too, you know, because you lived on Tyrrell Street or if you lived on Cooper's Hill or something like that. I'm writing about your home, you know.
Oh yeah.
So, although the title might be Roger Allen Byer, it's a lot of other people's stories too.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, so we have some historical works, language. So I'm just going to touch on a creative piece. Actually, I'm going to read from my novella, That Time in Bogles, a Carriacou Tale. So we're going up to Carriacou, Grenada's sister island. And I have relatives in Carriacou. My mother is from Carriacou, so I have a lot of cousins there, aunts and all sorts of relatives. And in the 90s, I used to go and spend about 3 weeks, a month during the summer vacation when I was teaching, when I was a teacher at GVSS, and get to know my cousins, get to know the culture and things like that. So I wrote this story and I set it in the village of Bogles. Although I wanted to showcase the culture of Carriacou, I had to set the story somewhere. So I chose Bogles, which is my mom's village. And it follows a boy, a Grenadian boy who goes up for the Easter break to spend time with his cousins. And the boy is not near, so he's a fictitious character. So I'm just going to read an excerpt where he just arrived. And back then, this is set in 1982. You know, back then you take a boat whole day on the sea, 7-8 hours on the sea to get to Carriacou in the 70s and early 80s, I suppose. So this is after he set foot on land after that long trip. And he's not a boat guy, he's not a boatman. Got sick several times on the sea and things like that. So he's now at Bogles at his cousin's place, his aunt and uncle. A cacophony of excited voices filled the yard as everyone spoke to each other at the same time. Daniel looked around in awe. The loaded plum trees that populated the compound pleased him tremendously. He caught sight of the top of an avocado tree behind a small plywood shed that he recognized as a kitchen. The branch of a laden citrus tree scraped the kitchen's roof. He thought it could be a lemon or a gospo tree. A couple of banana plants stood guard beside the unpainted main house. Daniel lifted his gaze to the small hill overlooking Tanti's house and noticed people observing the current commotion. He had to survive in Bogles without electricity and running water for almost 2 weeks. And in the dry season, he sighed softly. At least he will get to suck a lot of plums. Hey, Elijah, Danny, are you reach up? A deep voice interrupted the chatter. They turned to see Tantan's head and shoulders above the cassava fence. Elijah's father shook hands with the new arrivals as soon as he entered the yard. How the sea water, boy? Daniel tried hard to decipher Tantan's words. He wondered why most kayaks spoke so fast. It was kind of rough. Elijah laughed. I didn't find so. Daniel shot his cousin a glance and shook his head. Well, my body feel like somebody pong me up. Well, are you on the sea whole day? Tanti said. Come and eat something. I have some rice and fish in the kitchen. Daniel forgot all about the terrible sea voyage and began to salivate. He and Elijah followed Tanti to the kitchen while Elisha and Tantan carried their luggage into the house. Tanti, olive bill over the kitchen, real nice, Elijah remarked as he inspected the plywood structure. His mother lit a lantern and he eyed the back section where his father had set up the firesides. The scent of burnt firewood lingered in the air. Yes, Tantan and Shah worked on it last year. A few minutes later, Daniel and Elijah walked into the main house with their food and cups of gospel juice. Elijah plopped down on the front steps, while Daniel sat on the wooden table in the big hall. As he set down his enamel plate, he admired the pink plastic tablecloth with a flower design. Tantan came in with an illuminated gas lamp and set it on the table. It provided light for all 4 rooms in the house. Daniel smiled as he stared at the glass lampshade that was engraved, "Home Sweet Home." His mother had one exactly like it. He noticed a wooden cabinet with a glass door that displayed ornately decorated drinking glasses and chinaware. His mom also had a safe full of nice wares. He was certain that, just like his mother, Tanti never used these utensils unless a special guest paid a visit. So that is Daniel's arrival in Bogles there. We're talking about back in the day what the houses probably looked like, wooden house, plywood house, whatever. But no electricity, no running water, obviously no telephone. And the people enjoyed life. People enjoyed. So what I recognize with what 4 of us shared today, we could look at the historical context of each of our sharings and how it could play a role in helping our young people, our children understand what it was like in Grenada and how far we've come. Grenada has come a long way. If you look at socially, obviously, economically, we're different and things like that. But where do they find our books? How do we preserve these books? And again, I think everything just focuses back on a library building. I was pleased when Wendell started calling names, names of authors. So how do children know who these people are, who the authors are, if we don't have a library for them to visit and see? All right, hey, let's check out the Grenada section. So that's one of the reasons why I think we should campaign for the refurbishment of the institution called the library. You want to say something, Roger?
Yeah. David, let me jump in on the library thing now. What my thoughts are. And the library is a wonderful building. I remember being at the museum at a function, and the lady that was speaking, when she finished, she looked across at the library. She pointed to the library and she said, "What a magnificent old building in disrepair. It's been like that for years." But she went on to say, the saddest part is that nobody seemed to notice. Now, that was a very profound remark, because what it meant was we've had administrations come and go. We've had groupings. I was a member of the Willie Reddard Foundation. I was also president of the National Trust, you may know, David. But is there the will? No. The challenges for the library is not just an old decaying building. To me, the main challenge is that we have evolved and we have probably moved out of a situation where children would go after school to the library to do homework and research, or people would go and sit in a quiet nook and read a book. Now they have it in the palm of their hands. They have Kindle, they have internet, they have TV, they have computers, so they can do the same thing we used to do by sitting on their veranda at home. So what is the motivation for them to pay transportation or to go down to the library? Something, and you see this thing they call Kindle. I put out 2 books now, and I've always said to myself, if I had put out my books 15 or 20 years ago, they would have sold double or triple what they're selling today, although they're not doing bad. I mean, I'm not complaining, because of people have options today. And where somebody would buy a book. I remember when the James Bond series came out, everybody was lending the James Bond book. First there was Dr. No, then Goldfinger, and then From Russia with Love. And people were passing these books around, lending these books. So everybody got to read, right? And then when the movies arrived in Grenada, you went to see them at Empire or Regal or something, you had read the book already. But nowadays, I don't know if people have the time or the patience to sit down and read a book unless they download it on Kindle. So Kindle is probably the closest thing to people reading books now. And I'll just end off here by making a comparison. It's my opinion that one of the reasons that the West Indies cricket team is doing so badly is that our young men no longer play cricket and ball cricket. They may be sitting in a room watching NBA basketball on television. They know LeBron and Steph Curry better than they know our cricketing heroes. It's not that they mean to be that way. It's just how life has evolved. Things have changed, right? So instead of seeing a Viv Richards or Frank Worrell or Sobers or something, they're looking at something else. And I put that in parallel with the circumstance of the library. I don't think people, unfortunately, believe they need it. Now, I am sure, all of us here, love the old building, would love to see people going back there because it's something we know about. But I fear that buildings of that kind, institutions that catered to something before, may be on their way out. I'm sorry to say, I'm not a pessimist, but it's just a reality we must embrace as we look for ways to get the library up and running. There are challenges.
Perhaps the pause that we must reinvent the idea of what a library is, maybe reinvent it into perhaps a learning resource center where it's not just about books, but other things as well. What do you think, Naka?
Roger makes some good points as it relates to the times and how things have changed over the years and people's appetite for reading. But you know, he kind of, as he was talking, he sort of dawned on me, how come a people that started the whole library business end up now trying to get the people to want to read? Because if you do a little background check, you will realize that the first library of any kind of well-renowned or recognized in the world is the Library of Alexandria in Egypt. So it means Africa that had the first library. The question is how come that was not transmitted, came across with us as a people. What happens is that when we get here, what we start reading is that we start reading European stuff. And that thing changed up the whole way we start looking at things. And now we're struggling now to get back now, to get our stuff out there so people to sort of recognize it and grab hold of the whole thing. And it's really tough going, but to coming back on the library and the importance of the library, like when I went into that library to check on some of the newspapers, for instance, like I said, there are hundreds and hundreds of newspapers, articles and stuff that went before that. If they're put into digital form and like you say, set it up like a resource center and reorganize the building, then I think people would still visit for you know, people visiting from overseas, and we have to cater for, maybe tourists and not only local, because like I said, the amount of libraries that you have in the schools now, the problem with the libraries in the schools is that children feel that they have the information at hand, but the information that is coming in is not local stuff, right? The people that are willing to build those libraries in the school, could we get them to contribute some form of funding towards the renovation of the main library? You know, the one in St. George's, you have libraries out in St. John's. I'm not sure if I think you have in St. Mark's Resource Center. I'm not sure about St. Patrick's and St. Andrew's and St. David's. But maybe we but who is it gonna really take the lead on that? And if we need to renovate, what is the cost of renovation?
Yeah.
Do we have to do something on the building in terms of not only the roofing of the building, but maybe the walls itself? I mean, we need to get some costing done so that if somebody has to make a contribution, they have an idea in terms of what it's going to cost to renovate the building as you move forward. So yes, what Roger's saying is correct. I mean, the gadgets and all this stuff, I mean, come in and what have you, and all the Kindle and stuff, but hands across the seas and some of the other donors keep dumping books within the OECS, and you're talking about hundreds of thousands of books. They keep dumping. Whether the children reading or they're not reading, I don't know. We need to maybe look at that, but hundreds of thousands of books are coming in from overseas. Maybe they're not reading our books, but they're coming in. They're still dumping books.
They should read our books. They should be reading our books.
But they're sending books in. The question is now is not only a question of we have to struggle to get our books in, but also with that we have to get the teachers now who might be interested in getting the teachers to read those books. That might be our next challenge because the books might be sitting there and the children are really interested in getting hold of it. So we have some challenges. I mean,
let's get Wendell's take on the matter.
No, just to pick up on a couple of things that Roger said regarding the library. A library presents the right atmosphere for study. I love the times back during the 1970s. I had books. I could have gone to on a tree somewhere and sit down and read the book. But the library was just a place for me to go and study. I don't want to sit in a house, for instance, where you hear a baby crying, or the fridge is there to tempt you to eat something from the fridge every minute. So you go to a place that is the right place, the perfect atmosphere, conducive to study. And another point, Kindle, yes. I didn't put my books on Kindle as yet. I see the direction in this age of technology. I see where it's going. Yeah, a lot of people are into the Kindle, yes. But also you must remember, like almost just as today I was looking at CNN and they were talking about these books, these new books. So I don't think books are going anywhere fast. What I would see happen, what would I think will happen in the future, the libraries may be smaller because you'll have the digital, the electronical, the computers and all that stuff there, but they will still have books. Now, the student who sits at home, for instance, and think he wants to research, he does not have, he's not in a place where someone, a librarian, somebody probably with a master in library science is there, who is skilled, trained on research. So he goes on to Google and Google up all kind of stuff, and it may not be the right thing for him. The librarian would show him, she's like a bridge. You have the library, and you have the librarian, and you have the student. So the librarian would guide him. Suppose he wants to get a journal. Now, of course, you can stay home probably and have your library information and gain access to journals. But the librarian would tell you, because she's skilled, she's knowledgeable, or he and she, let me say he or she, because I like to, yeah. I have to be politically correct here, he or she. No, I don't want nobody call me and say something, you know. So the librarian would guide that person to the right journal. Now, there's a lot you can Google and you go to YouTube, but not all information might be relevant or conducive or the proper information, you know? So we have to look at that. But yes, Roger, the books. There are some people who love the hard copy books and physical books. They love it.
Wendell, let me jump back in here. I don't disagree. I think we're all on the same page. But one of the pillars of my point is that we are living in different times.
Yes.
We could get funding and we could restore that library and we can stock it with books and we could put librarians who are knowledgeable people there to help customers. But as the saying goes, the title of an old book I read one time, they staged a revolution and nobody came. Meaning you have to make sure you can motivate people to want to come back to sit in a place to read a book. Now, I love to do it myself. You and I grew up in a time where, well, somebody might chop my head off for saying this, but we were more disciplined in the sense that, for example, when they were giving vaccines in the primary school, we all got our vaccines and we went home without blinking an eye because we did what people told us to do. So the generation we come from, and some, they knew to go to the library to read a book. Now, with the multiplicity of distractions that young people have, we're going to have a campaign to motivate them, to convince them, to make them like it, to make them want to come back. Because as I said, there's a chance that you get the funding, you restore the library, and it will be a big empty shell because the people you want to come there are sitting on their cell phone, Googling, getting their information that way. So it's not just a matter of the physical structure and the fact that we all agree it's great to have the library atmosphere, people go and read, and so we have a generation out there now that will have to be convinced of this, right? Because it's not something that they know. So to me, this is where the battle is. The battle is not so much to get the building restored, which you have to, and to get it properly staffed or what have you, but to get the people you want to use the building to want to use the building.
Yeah, one of the things I love the NALIS, National Library and Information System Authority of Trinidad for is that they've reinvented the function of a library. So it's not all about going in a building and studying and reading books and stuff like that. Like they have exhibitions, they invite authors to hold spoken word events, like the poets and things like that. They might have displays to show the importance of books by nationals who write about the country's history, book launches by local authors and all of these kinds of things. So it's not just about books, even, well now that we have to do everything virtually, like we're doing right now, they could do a lot more than just saying, all right, let's have somebody speak. The whole virtual concerts, you know, rappers and what do you call them, reggae guys, and them, they are the dancehall guys. So amateurs though, not necessarily the professionals. So there's so many activities I think that could attract people back to a library or learning resource center or something of that nature. But and one of the things too, I think in our context, in the Grenada context, and within the context of us as Grenadian writers and authors, if we want to give people in general, but students in particular, access to our books, I think the best place for them to get access is in a library. A lot of students perhaps can't afford to buy our books, given that we had to sell book $40, $60, $80, $100. But if a library system buys copies of our books, or we donate a couple copies and they buy the rest, or something like that, and the books are in the library, the students know where they could go and find a copy. Hey, I want to read that person's book. First, they must know who we are. I want to read that person's book. Where can I get a copy? I can't afford to buy it. But I have money. Oh, go to the library. They get copies. So that again, that kind of transitions us into the issue of distribution of our books, though. You know, everybody has books. Our books are all on Amazon. I know your book is on Amazon, Naka.
Yeah, sure. Well,
So
we do have,
all our books.
we have no Grenada Zone, so we have to use Amazon.
Yeah, if Grenadians want to access our books, check
But
Amazon.
if I may, just to say something about Amazon. Amazon is like a showcase for your book. Now, I don't know what deals you have with Amazon, Roger, David, Naka. I don't know what deals you've made with Amazon, but I'll tell you something. The kind of deal that I have is I wouldn't gain a lot from the selling of my books there because I don't have to do anything. And when they have to pay the printer, they have to pay all of the parties involved. I'll tell you something. My book would sell for $20 on Amazon. And what would I get? It's a couple dollars, right?
Yeah,
but again, I'm not doing anything. Now, if T.D. Jakes or Rihanna or Obama writes a book, that $2 and they sell 2 million, 3 million, it's a big difference for them. You see that?
Exactly. Yeah.
So when, and I don't want to throw cold water on those who intend to write and to put their books on Amazon. And I don't want you to build your hopes too high, but stick with reality.
Yeah.
You make your money when you sell your book, you market your books, and you make the effort.
Yeah.
And if you have a wide fan base, all the better for you. I've proved it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. You understand? I've seen it. So just to say that we can put our books out there. You can even put your books in the bookstores, and you'll wait for a long time before they even pay you.
Yep.
But I was fortunate. I don't want to say too long on this, but I was fortunate to mix and mingle with different literary groups in New York. So when they have a session, a book session, an event, and you have 200 or 300 people there, these are people that come to hear and to listen and to buy books. And so you walk out from that session with money in your pocket. It's different when you put it on Amazon.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, a lot of people think, you put your book on Amazon and they see a price, the sale price as $20, for example. And they say, boy, that man making, he sell 5 books and you make $100, you know? But they don't know the royalty is so small.
Yeah, it's so small.
You had to sell millions, like you said, to make.
Yeah.
Let me interject here. I find you all guys kind of hard. When
you probably made good money the way you're smiling. I see that, You make good money.
You have to print the book.
Yeah.
They have to get something for it. No.
Right.
And Amazon is different from you guys because my 2 books are on Amazon and I've done quite well with them. I'll tell you something. It's not an all eggs in one basket situation, but the exposure that my books get. For example,
that's a showcase.
Somebody could see one of my books on Amazon and want to make a movie out of it and contact me and I could sell the movie rights. No, I can't do that in Grenada, right? And I have no problem with the people getting something for something that I'm getting something for too. And again, it's both paperback and Kindle and the exposure. And whilst we're at it, some people talk, some people don't like Facebook and so. Facebook has been very, very good to me for my book sales.
Me too.
They reach.
I could attest to that.
Yeah.
Because I'll give you one example. Just yesterday, I went to my bank and somebody through Zelle sent me $125. And I was wondering, I said, wait, how this money come into my account? And when I checked my WhatsApp, and somebody told me check my account, and it's actually for books. So I just have to get the addresses of those people and post the books to them. So Facebook is very good. I'm happy for Facebook. And that's why I always just thank I did it this morning when I made a post. I thank my friends on Facebook who have been buying my books. And I want us to come to something, if time allows, how to get people interested in Grenadian books. If time allowed, I would like to just talk about that for a while. How to get them interested, because again, we came from an oral tradition, telling stories on the mango tree, and so on. Now we have the books. I'll give a short, very short. I had a book signing once. My brother organized it for me. We call it a party book. So it's a combination of things there, a party book signing. People dancing. And I had the audacity to actually stop the party and read my book. Man, people get mad in that party. They don't want to, when five fellas whining on women, they want to hear nothing but book. One guy said, man, why you want to stop the party to read the book? I organized it, you know, but he didn't want me to read my book. But when he heard his grandfather name called in the reading, man, he was right there in the line to buy the book. So I just say that to say that when we write, we have to write so that we appeal to our Grenadian people. This is very important. We appeal to them.
Yeah, right, the Grenadians. What do you say about that, Naka?
In terms of,
Yeah, I mean, when
in terms
you, I
of
know
what,
when, in terms of what Wendell just said, because you, like your books, you focus on sports, like on the energy of Guav.
yeah.
Did you get a lot of support in terms of people from Guav or St. John's buying that title, The Energy of Guav? They want to see people, hey, I know this man. I remember this guy. You know?
Yeah, the outpouring, both in providing of the information and also the purchasing here.
Right. Yeah.
Both was tremendous, yes.
And
and like the Facebook, like both Roger and Anthony was saying, that has been a tremendous tool for me. I wasn't a user of it. One of the old sensei tell me, you know, I should use it because I felt there was so much old talk and thing going on Facebook, but you say you're not bother with that. That is not what you're using Facebook for. Using Facebook to advertise your book. And it was good because then there are people that I have not met since school days, that more than 15, 20 years ago, I was able to find them on Facebook and interact and advertise the book there. And like Roger was saying also, there is so much of packages on Amazon that even if you do it right and you set it up right, you could use Amazon in a variety of ways, because you could set them up maybe to advertise and you could ship the book out from here and don't have them ship the book out for you and just use them. I mean, you have different packages that you could use, different things that you could do.
Definitely.
You just have to really study them properly. The problem we have is our local post office system, because that's what I started with before getting onto Amazon, is that people were sending, and again, it have trust issues that would be part of that as well. The people were sending monies down, and I was posting books out through the post office, which was, you know, a pretty good deal until I posted out a book, and we couldn't find it. And he came back after a couple of weeks, and I was trying to track it through the post office, and we couldn't track it. Because once the book gets into the American system, somehow our local postal service, I mean, sort of hands over the reads to them and they can't track it. But what is amazing though is that if you're dealing with Amazon and they ask you to put something on, by the time I drop the book in Guam post office, Amazon keep telling me where the book is at until it reaches in the warehouse. And I ask the guy, I don't understand how that is possible that Amazon knows what's going on. You know, a local postal service, when the book moved from Guam to St. George's to the airplane, from the airplane to Miami, and yet still sometimes we can't track the book. I mean, that we send out in Miami or maybe in the Caribbean. So these areas as well. So that's why Roger made the point that you have to use Amazon, and until, you know, we get maybe Grenadians that could come together to set up something similar or close to, then we just have to use exactly what we have. I mean, it's
But-
something we have to do it, but you know, just
Like
have to use it.
on the ground in Grenada, you know, we like those of us in associated with the Grenadian published authors, we would have events like sale events, and like in December we're gonna have one on the 18th in Grenville, and then the whole of Christmas week we plan to be in St. George's, downtown St. George's. We had a reading event. I think our first reading event, Roger, was that in 2019 or 2018, when we teamed up with the Grenada Cultural Foundation, and we had a pretty good event. We brought out our books to showcase so people could hear us read, and then afterwards they could buy copies. But one of the things that people have been asking, why don't we put our books in stores in Grenada? There aren't many bookstores in Grenada, so we could probably count about three bookstores in the country where we could maybe put our books. So sometimes people ask, so why a book not in stores and things like that. One of the reasons I always tell them is that our books are fairly expensive already in terms of after accounting for all of the costs and so on. It might be a $40 or a $60, $80, $100, and people would buy them from us. You could hand it over to the customer, to the fan. But when you put those books in stores, obviously the stores, there must be a markup. There must be a percentage that has to be added in additional to the profit margin for taxes. So by the time you sell a $50 book to the store, your book might cost $60-something. And how accessible is that to many people? Which is one of the things I think that's hindering or preventing Grenadians from getting our books as well. So we end up having to sell it ourselves, you know, we hold these events and we sell them. Or I know Roger does this, he has a set in his vehicle, you drive around, somebody knows it, hey, you have a book out, buy a copy, and things like that. And that has been working. So far. And like Wendell said, it takes some work. Go ahead, Roger.
When you tell Roger's stories, you must tell it correctly.
Yeah, please.
When I meet somebody shopping in Foodland, I tell them I have your book in the car. So
That's even more encouraging. Yeah.
David, one question. One of the things that I found was so productive and rewarding for me was the open mic session. Just picture the Carnage on a nice evening, nice atmosphere, and you invite a number of people and they sit there and they listen to the people read their books. Even students could be there, and you have those people who you could even have those who are involved in the poetry, and the others read their books, and then you'll have the students asking questions. What motivated you to write? Why do you write? Where did you get those ideas from? You're making the students get interested in literature. You know, so I love the open mic session.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that with the COVID that is raging now, I mean, you could hardly find one in Brooklyn. But I would like to see you guys could organize that in Grenada when the protocols allow.
Yeah. That'll be something to do in truth. And I think young people are interested. Once they know somebody is or has published, they ask these kinds of questions.
I'm surprised. One of the probably the biggest surprise I got with reading my new book, We Kind of Talk. So many children of Grenadians in Brooklyn called me and they said, "Oh, we love the book. Mommy and Grandpa used to use those words, but now you have a book explaining what the words mean. We used to hear our mother saying you're too disagreeable. or I tolerate and words like that are upside it down. And you put all those in a book, and so we are grateful. I felt happy when those kids called me and told me that. So you see, again, we have to be able to appeal to them, make it interesting. And Grenadians have talent. We are talented people. We bright, so we could do it.
Just to back up what you just said there, and again, I'm not an agent of Amazon or anything. I'm just pleased with the service I get personally.
You have a good deal.
The last 5 books I sold online, the last 5 books I sold online on Amazon, as a matter of fact, this month of December, their books were all purchased by Grenadians living in Canada or the United States.
Very nice. Very nice.
So I am reaching my people in Canada and America through Amazon. I couldn't reach them here in Montreal. I live in Grenada. So
Right.
advantage of that opportunity and buying books through that facility. And one other thing Naka mentioned, I didn't mention too, and David spoke about it. We all know that on Amazon you have the author purchase facility where you purchase books at a certain price.
Right.
What an ordinary person would purchase. And you bring your books down here and you could sell down here, you put back your markup with what you pay to bring it in, etc. And so that's another facility, right? And so you don't have to sit down and depend on people buying your book online only. You own the books, bring your books in, and then you sell your books in Grenada.
Yeah, that's what we do.
You know, and you know, David, you saw that I put it back up on Facebook. Oh, books are coming up.
Yeah, we do that from time to time.
And you sell your own books down there. If you want to put them in outlets, it's up to you. I don't personally have a good run with outlets, and so and I prefer to sell my books to myself.
Right.
I have my good, the outlets haven't, of course I won't call names, but I didn't like the service. I didn't, so I said, oh, I'll sell.
And something else, David, what we have here in Brooklyn too, book clubs. Now, you have these book clubs, and they may invite you. They may say, Mr. DeRiggs, we have a book club here. We have a certain amount of members, 15, 20 members. So we like you to bring your books and do a reading for us. And you know what? That is so profitable, because when you go in a building or like a house, and the 15 or 20 people there, well, that was before COVID, of course.
Yeah.
And you sit down there and you read your book. You know what happens? Those people there, one person is going to buy 4 or 5 books.
Oh, yeah.
Because that person is buying for Uncle Fred in England, Sister Jane in Karakou. So one person buys 5, the other, and when it adds up and you walk out there, you're feeling good. You understand? And then again, we as writers, we have to know who we are targeting.
Target is important. Yeah.
You could have 1 million people following you on Facebook, but that don't mean that those people have buying power. But we are, you know, you have people like who are retired and they want to read, and they could afford to buy 15 of your books. There's a man whose name is in my new book, We Cannot Talk. He bought 12 books, 12. I sold him 12 last month because he was buying for the whole family. Why he was buying it? Because his name is there. In a very positive way, So we have to look at that.
But when
it's quite.
I want to jump in here again about what you're saying is very true. We have to attract people to our books. So
yes,
you're not just writing a book. I remember Jacob Ross, I'm sure David was there, maybe 2 years ago, he had something in my show house and we all went.
That's my uncle, right? And that's my uncle. Yeah. Right.
Jacob made a statement that has always stayed with me. People asking him a lot of questions and so on. So about what kind of book they should put out and this and that and so. And he saw my book of a Grenadian that served in Vietnam. And he said, that's good, because you have to show something different. Not Grenadian story has to be Brian Nancy, Tim Tim, and Laja Bless.
Yeah.
People write about that too. But people must not feel that that is all we could write about. Grenadian experiences, you might have been working in an oil field in Saudi Arabia, you might have been in Iceland doing something and so. And again, David, I don't know if you remember, I spoke at an anti-tech function some years ago.
All right. Yes.
And I think I had students from TAMCC.
Yeah, I brought some TAMCC students. Yeah.
And I spoke to them about self-publishing and about things. And I found very receptive, you know. You would expect these young people might have been bored and they're going through the motions and so. They asked a number of questions and so.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
You have to give people something different to suit their times that would make them interested.
Right. And I'm interested in reading your book. I'll tell you that. Very much so. Very much so. Hopefully, yeah.
After this meeting, I'm putting 6 each of my books in a package to send for you. So I'll send you 12.
Anything for you. Anything for you.
I know Naka has been trying to distribute books into schools so that our students would know people who have served Grenada, served the communities in sports, but in different aspects as well. So how has that been working out, Naka? You're trying to get schools to get access to your book?
Yeah, it's been working out pretty fine for me so far. I think I'm just missing maybe about, let's see, 2, 4, 4, maybe about 10 schools. I need to cover 10 more schools to cover all the primary and all the secondary schools on the island.
Okay. What we found is like a lot of schools. Well, in general, you don't have Grenadian books in the schools. I remember when I did lit, like first book in Form 1 was a book out of Jamaica, real good book. Escape the Last Man Peak. So by Form 2, we did a Guyanese book. So I'm wondering, well, what happened? And this was the early 80s, early to mid 80s. I'm thinking, what happened to the Grenadian books? What's going on?
Right.
Now that we have all of these Grenadian authors who have published books, I think a lot of them are appropriate for schools. We're still wondering why we're not seeing Grenadian books on the curriculum for English Lit. We do have Grenadians who have authored or co-authored textbooks for maybe a social studies, mathematics, and so on. But literature, we're talking literature, and perhaps history too, but in literature, we ain't seeing Grenadian books yet. I know this year, we're in 21, I think the ministry has started they've started to look at books for the supplementary reading list. But that's a good start. But I would love to see that day when we see books, a Grenadian author, a literature book for Form 1 and Form 2 in the first instance, and then later on for other classes, even primary school. Because the students could relate to the stories, especially if the story is set in Grenada or our state, the Tri-Island state. So we look forward to that. So many people are publishing today, and that is something that even up to last night I was helping a guy upload his manuscript onto Amazon. You know, the manuscript, the cover and all of that. And we work together with all of that on Amazon, and there are so many options now. People ask, so how do I go about publishing? I think all of us are self-publishers.
Yeah. Well, except one of my books was published in London.
Okay. Yeah. Was that a traditional publisher or a vanity publisher?
No. How could I describe it? It was a recognized publishing company.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Because there are some publishers nowadays, they pay them to do the work and.
Well, yes. I know that. I saw your post on Facebook.
Yeah, hey, that was an interesting case. The lady
Yeah,
has
yeah.
been trying to reach this publisher, Lit Fire Publishing, for a long, long time after she published a book. And it's like they're ghosting her. They're not responding to her emails or calls. She has people in the States calling, they're responding. So I did some research on them. I find there are quite a number of complaints on them people there.
Right.
We always have to be careful who we get to publish our stuff. So I say what I sticking with this self-publishing thing for the time being. Unless
Right.
somebody, yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
But David, that's all a result of changing times again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Talking about self-publishing. A couple of years ago, self-publishing was the poor relative of the publishing industry. It was somebody did, they sent out manuscript to 40 people, nobody taking them on.
Was the last
Major
resort.
last straw. But again, times have changed. You publish your book properly. And first and foremost, a self-published book looks just like a book from Simon and Schuster. Nobody knows the difference because you get your book out there, right? And people get to see it. Besides selling your book, there's a further exposure, as I mentioned before. But what I like about self-publishing, and everybody would like to get some major publishing house to publish their book, etc. We all tried when we started off and so. But I'll tell you something, you have a choice. You could get your work out, or you could sit down for the next 20 years waiting for a publisher. It's up to you, right?
Yep.
Now, somebody may come knocking, most likely nobody will. Not only that, you have to take into consideration how they will change up your book. They may change the title. You have to deal with a middleman. You have to rearrange. You have all kinds of promises. You self-publish, you set yourself up, and you control your work.
Yeah, I like the control part.
Them come and buy the rights from you.
As well, like, and then the printing aspect of it. Naka alluded to printing in China, and I think the three of us, the rest of us, we print in the United States. So sometimes I often wonder how. Have you ever compared Naka printing in China to printing in the States?
Yeah, I think I looked at my books here that because who handles the publishing is my nephew is the person who handles the publishing, and he would interact with a number of publishers. You look at the quality of the book and make sure that the quality, when we look at the quality of the book that I got and compare it to some of the other works that I've looked at, I mean, it's really top quality. So
That's the
really
one
can't complain about the quality of the stuff that we got out there.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I have another partner who prints in China as well as Ron. So sometimes when people look at the variety of or the differences in the prices of our books, they often wonder, well, why this book is this size and that book is that size, and same size perhaps different price. So even all of that we had to consider where the books are printed before we bring them into Grenada. Anybody ever tried to print in Grenada though?
Yeah, I tried when I was doing the first book in 2012. I tried to print here, but I didn't get through. The person who was trying to print it, when we look at the quality, it was not good. So I ended up printing in Trinidad. Trinidad and Tobago.
A number of people print.
The guy gave me a reduced cost, he says, and still it turned out to around what, 10 or 11 US for the book. I mean, I had pictures in there. Of course, I always have photos in there, but it was just the size of the book was just 132 pages, and he charged me around 11 US per book, and he had also reduced the price. But compare that in China, I don't want to print. I mean, I would prefer that people in the Caribbean, of course, if we have printers in the US, Grenadian printers, but we're not, we doesn't have that around. So I also compare the price with Trinidad and Tobago for the energy of Guava and compare it to China. When I send the manuscript down in Trinidad and I ask them to give me a cost to print the energy of Guava in Trinidad, They told me that one book was going to cost 28 US for one.
Yes.
And when we contrast that with China, China was charging me 4 US for one.
And the quality was good in China as well. So
No, it's real top class quality.
Yeah,
I mean, you have to know exactly who you're going through because you have to check on if it doesn't get good work, and make sure that you have insurance coverage, and if the quality is not good, you know, got to write them up because they're coming through some of the top companies. You have these publishing companies. I'm sorry, the printing companies within some of those big companies out of China. So they want to make sure that the quality of work that is going out there, I mean, they don't want to get any bad name, of course. So they will check and make sure that the stuff that they get in, you know, really done properly. And they give you a time to check the work, make sure they tell you check all the work, all the books, to make sure there is no, let's say, damage book or damage anything, and then they'll give you books to cover just in case you have a problem with that, and look at the work. And once you're satisfied with it, then you sign off on it. And I mean, that was a major difference in price from 28 US to 4 US. I mean, that's
But Naka, it's a balance, as you said. You want a good finish for your book, but you have to be able to afford it. So Amazon sent me a book, one copy once. It was back to front or something. Before I responded to them, another one was on the way. I get it in the mail.
That's the thing about those companies. They don't really mix matters with those stuff at all. But you see, the 28 US, if you print a book for 28 US, I mean, what were you going to sell it for?
Sell about $200.
You see, I mean, you just can't. It's just not possible to sell something. I mean, who's going to buy that? You know? And you're trying to get the books, you know, so people could read and you know, because what I'm dealing with the history part of the writing is a serious thing for me in terms of, you know, how we break that barrier and perform at the international level as far as all our athletes are concerned. So it's not just writing a book per se, but people understand exactly what is taking place from a sporting standpoint, because the sportsman and sportswoman before have been relegated to a certain segment of the society where, you know, if you're really talented or good at what you do, people just say that you're talented or you're God-given, as if it's not you that is doing it. But if you study for 5 years in a university or whatever, of course you thank God for it, but as if it's you that do the work for 5 years. So as if you're that God-given or you're talented.
Imagine that.
So so the sportsman is not given that sort of, I mean, well, at least things changing around now, like Roger would always say, things turning around, because now you have primary school students playing football at the international level and making more money than all the professors who have all the degrees, like Ronaldo and Messi. They're primary school students. That's the 40s they reach. But they're making all the money in football. You see? And it's because of the talent, but things have turned around now. So this man now has taken a big leap forward in terms of, and these days people equating, I mean, the amount of money you make has been successful. They can't get away from it. So this is what it boils down to. I think Lewis Hamilton also pushed back college, and so he's from high school, he goes straight into driving. I guess maybe he could deal with that later on, but right now,
some professionals do that, and after the athletic career, back to school.
Yeah, but you see, the sportsman has been relegated to almost, you know, down at the bottom of the ladder. But now he's making more money than everybody else. So it's something that I wanted to, especially when it comes to the sporting side of things, to ensure that we have a history and let people know that we're capable of performing with the best of them, and we could even prepare at least here to reach out and do the same. So
I wanted us to get into another round of reading, so that, you know, we could mix up things. You're all ready to send off or to share a short story, thing about a personality or somebody. So you want to give us a piece, Wendell?
Yes. And this is the meat. I put it the meat of the book. We kind of talk. This is our kind of talk now, because as I said, the Queen's English, what you hear in the airport, what you hear in a bank, but we have the talk that unlocks our history and make us who we are. So this one is called a local prayer. Papa God. And look, all our dialect, the words that we speak out there, it has been lost as time goes by. Okay, a local prayer. Papa God, I'm begging you, please, hear my plea. Forgive those who constantly seek to tomfool, mamagai, and bamboos others. Have pity on those who treat people like Papicho, Papuntan, Stupidi, Jackasses, Bebe, Abuta, and Laughing Stock. Bless those who are scrunching and catching the nenen and the royal tail to make a little panquai. Help those who suffer in these times that is harder than Gugu, Campus Wood, Labby Rock, and Mr. Jojo Kajam, or some people say Kokope. Enlighten those who keep pulling down each other like crabs in a barrel. Comfort the lonely who sit in a corner like Pomi One. Brighten the countenances of those who like, what shall I do? Help us always to speak words of wisdom and not break Chata, Tutu, Brango, and Kakapol all the time. Shield us from the prying eyes of Makos and those who like Commerce, Dese, Hiese, and Sebe. Stay the hands of those who like to joke and sness and set people against each other. Help the sick to soar high above their pain like bamboo and flex kite in the sky. And now, to those who are waiting for the time when people kick the bucket, to enjoy the rum, the rice and peas and curry goat in the praise and happy hour, Lord, make the wait be as long as twine or when cock have teeth. Keep us healthy, grateful, and kind, so that Crapo would not smoke our pipes. And help us to remember that what we sow, we will reap. We reap what we sow. For if we plant green fig, we can expect to eat or harvest blogo, yam, tashin, or breadfruit. It's so we talk, and it's so we do. We kind of talk. This one for Hudson George.
Yeah, boy. We kind of talk. My mom used to use a lot of these terms there, boy. All right. Yeah. Canadian talk. All right. Naka, you could tell us about a sporting personality, anything?
Nah, I don't really want to get there because you don't want to leave out someone. I mean, so much sporting personalities in there.
Yeah.
I will pass on that. Let me listen to you, Raja.
Yeah. A short story excerpt, Roger?
I like to read something from Tattooed Memory.
Yeah, man. I love that book. That's when I read that story, I was blown away.
Yeah, Tattooed Memories, of course, is my time in Vietnam and Cambodia as a 19-year-old infantry combat medic, most people remember. I'm going to read a little part of, we were leaving Hamlet to go out a night ambush. I'm just going to read a page and a half of something from it for you. It was about 1800 hours when we left the Hamlet compound, comprising mainly small thatched roofs and huts with mud walls. Everyone checked each other's equipment. Our squad leader for the mission was Sergeant Neville Burton. He was a lanky, easygoing 22-year-old veteran groom, a former goods truck driver from Arkansas in a previously far less demanding life. He got his call signals and emergency procedures down pat with both his platoon leader, Dan Barlow, and our company commander, Captain Boyle. The little children followed us to the edge of the town. as the leaden sky darkened on its way to rendezvous with a purple sunset. Then, having shrugged off twilight's feeble grasp, the waning day settled down. The kids were our pals. We gave them chocolates and they brought tiger piss bear for us from the bevy of small local enterprises along the roadsides. Little Nugent was my favorite. I was convinced that this bony little racketeer par excellence would one day open a chain of department stores in Vietnam with all of the candy bars and cigarettes that he had fleeced from us. Benefit, according to him, his six starving siblings and his poor handicapped and alien grandfather. Yeah, right. Nugent skipped along merrily beside us as we left the village. He yelled, "Hey, Doc," that's me. "Where are you guys going to set up your ambush tonight?" Oh, brother. The whole damn village knew already what we were going on for. Nugent, you scrawny little bastard, I replied, desperation. You really think that I want your uncle, who masquerades as a village school teacher during daylight hours, but who's really a VC guerrilla after dark, to know where I am going tonight, so that he and his pals can come out there and kill me on my bedroll later on? I searched the faces of the adults who wore comical hats and were all bowing and waving cheerfully at us as we went by. I wondered whether I would meet a few of them at the ambush site later that night, wearing much less benign expressions. I gave what I hoped was a smug-looking "see you later" smile as I walked past the cheerful but observant village crowd, just in case. We walked out of the hamlet in an easterly direction through the ever-blooming and seemingly threatening rubber trees. It was almost dusk, and the land was cooling fast. Cooking fires were being stoked, and the village elders were settling in comfortably for a restful night. We, on the other hand, were nothing but settled, and we searched for an ideal spot to set a trap. A preemptive one that would give us the jump and killing the men that may come out to kill us tonight. We eventually found a spot where a well-worn trail intersected the main road about a kilometer from the hamlet. We also conveyed potential users to higher ground to overrode our camp. Looked like a real good possibility for a nighttime infiltration. So David, I read that to read how different that is from my granny's bathroom. One is about a killing woman. One is about growing up in a little Caribbean island, but it's the same person involved.
Same person.
And this is what we track young people.
We have so many different options. So I am going to read from, as Roger read from a second book, I'm going to read from my other book, White Spice. So White Spice is actually my first novel. I decided to turn White Spice into hardcover. So that is the hardcover right here. It's available on Amazon already. This is just the proof copy. So this is not the real copy. This is the proof copy. So the cover of the real copy looks better. It's aligned and everything. So let me just read with White Spice. We're talking about an anti-drug trafficking police squad that goes around investigating cocaine trafficking around the country. I published this in 2015. I was, oh wow, that's like 6 years ago already. So this scene takes place on the sea with the Coast Guard. I gave the Coast Guard a nice boat, a short patrol boat. So let me read for you a scene where the Coast Guard is intercepting another boat in the Atlantic Ocean, just off Grenada's east coast. Is that what I'm reading? No, this one I'm reading in Sautez. This takes place in Sautez. This scene is where a foreigner is chasing a boy who just stole his bag, and a police officer is chasing both of them. Sautez is not really a boring tongue that day. Luis ran with 100% effort to try to catch the thief. That ladrone, he pictured his family being gunned down in his home in Miami. Shoot, his daughters. He mustered some extra energy to run even faster. He had to get that bag back. He hoped that there was no policeman around. He wanted to catch that wretch himself. He wouldn't do anything to the boy. He simply wanted his load back without attracting any more attention. But it seemed like the entire town was involved in the chase, including a policeman. He groaned silently and thought about stopping. He was horrified to see the boy's hand disappearing into the bag. Carajo, not good. The teenager ran around a parked van and slammed at full speed into a 6'5" burly man who was talking on a cell phone. The skinny boy bounced off the man's sturdy body and landed on his back a few meters away in the middle of the street. The bag flew across the road and skidded into the drain on the other side. The item in the boy's hand disappeared under the van. He looked up at the reflective glasses that shielded the man's eyes. Inspector Charles, the man in charge of the Sutter's police station. The man was pissed that his call to his only daughter was being interrupted by a slacker. He spoke into the phone. "Baby, let me call you back." "Daddy, what's happening there?" came a concerned female voice from the other end. "I'll call you later, Dudu." Inspector Charles ended the call. Inspector regarded the boy sternly. "Sammy, you're making trouble again." Plainclothes inspector said matter-of-factly. A crowd was now gathering. A constable ran up, his blue shirt soaked with perspiration, yet still tucked neatly into his black pants. Surprisingly, he breathed evenly. Less than 10 seconds later, Luis arrived, took in the scene and spoke to the constable. "Sir, I'll just take my bag and get back to my ship." The constable, Regis, exchanged a glance with Inspector Charles. He returned to Luis. "Sir, you have to come back with me to the police station to file a report about this incident." "Is that really necessary?" Luis desperately wanted to get out of this situation. The sweat on his brow was not because of anxiety, and not just from the afternoon heat. He noticed the big man watching him closely. Constable Regis again looked at his commanding officer. This time the inspector spoke up, producing his police ID. "Sir, I'm Inspector Charles of the Sutter's police station. You have to come with us to make a statement. Constable Regis will carry a bag for you." Luis realized he couldn't escape the situation. He sighed. "But I have to get back to the ship. We're supposed to leave soon," he tried to explain. "Don't worry. You will make it back on time," Inspector Charles reassured him after checking his watch and noting that it wasn't yet 4 p.m. He knew that the ship was scheduled to leave at 8 p.m. and that all passengers were supposed to be on board an hour before departure. Sammy was already in handcuffs. Constable Regis retrieved the bag from the drain across the road. It was open, and as he lifted it, a transparent plastic bag containing white powder fell out. The constable froze as he realized what might be in the parcel. "Sir, come over here, please," he ordered Luis. Luis took a few strides with heavy feet to reach the young police officer. He realized that his backpack was open and a 5-kilogram parcel of cocaine lay on the road. "This is your bag?" Constable Regis asked the American. Luis hesitated. His mind raced at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Say yes, and it meant that the drugs belonged to him, and he would be arrested for possession and trafficking. Say no, and he would be found out later, as witnesses may come forward to say they saw him carrying the bag. He had carried the same bag on the previous 6 visits to this town. He didn't see a way to get out of this one. He fumbled for words, and his voice quivered as he responded to the question. "Well, not exactly. I mean, it belongs to someone I'm carrying it back for in the States." We go figure this out in the station," Constable Regis decided. "Let's go." And they were off to the station. So that was an excerpt from White Spice, Grenadian crime thriller. That was actually my first book, the 2015 one. And so all my books, all our books, all of us on the panel here, all our books are available on Amazon. So listeners, viewers, you could do searches for our books, for our names on Amazon. And my books are available in paperback and Kindle. White Spice is also available as or in hardcover. You could talk a bit about the availability of your book or books, Naka?
Yeah, at present we have one that is outdated, that is been updated. That is the history of basketball in Grenada. The Energy of Guav is on Amazon, and we have locally, it's in soft cover. All the hardcover copies gone, and then the Grenadian football mystic is on the way. Get trapped in the things that is going on in the States with the shipping and all this stuff in California. That's been there weeks now. So I'm waiting for that book to come through there. That will also be on Amazon, but it's not there as yet.
Wait,
So right now the only book,
did you say the Grenadian football mystic?
Mystic.
Mystic, okay. All right, yes. Yeah. All right, yes. All right. Grenadian football mystic. Nice. Yeah. All right, thank you. Yeah. You could tell us about yours, Wendell.
Yes, certainly. Recollections of an Island Man. It's available on Amazon. You can get it there. And this one, that the most recent one, We Kinda Talk, also on Amazon. But I have copies too, and I will ship to anywhere in the United States. Hopefully, I'll be able to do something in Grenada in the month of March if the protocols allow. You know, March is a time next year I'll be hitting a milestone, and I want my friends to be there with me. Have a book signing and a birthday celebration. Hopefully, I'm looking forward to that. But you gonna be there. I want Roger to be there. Everybody, Naka too, and all my friends. Yeah, because these days you have to do what you have to do now. I could have left this book and say, okay, I'll do it sometime in the future. But by the way thing going, anything you have to do, you better do it now. All right.
Yeah. Roger, tell us about the availability of your two titles.
Yeah, my two books, Tattooed Memories, that came out in 2014, and Granny's Bathroom, that came out in 2017. Both are on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle versions. And I order books myself. I always have a book stock in Grenada. I can be contacted on Facebook, or I'm in the telephone directory, Roger Byer. And as you let the cat out of the bag before, I get the books around the car. So I see me, call me anywhere, and I have books available, locals and online. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all the people who have supported me, generously so, and continue to do so, purchasing my books. I'd like to thank you all.
Thank you. I mentioned the two books. I mentioned White Spice. I read from White Spice. I read from That Time in Bogles. I have a third one, Zone 1, a Grenadian short story. That's my short story that I published in 2019. I never had a formal book launch for this. I was planning to launch in, I published it in December of 2019. So I was going to launch it in March or April of 2020. But we all know what happened. So no launch was possible. COVID decided to salt my scene right there. So I have that available. So in Grenada, viewers in Grenada, listeners, if you're looking for books for the Christmas, the GPA, Grenadian Published Authors, we're going to do a sale on the 18th of December in Grenville, in the Grenville car park. And from the 20th to the 24th of December in St. George's under the NIS building. So quite a number of authors will be there showcasing our books. Talk to an author, bring your children, see who an author is, and things like that. You know, there are a lot of
the new NIS building or the old NIS building?
The old one, the old NIS
oh,
building.
Okay, all right.
That covered section there, opposite the Coggins parking lot there.
All right.
Yeah, under there. Yeah, a lot of Grenadians don't know that Grenadians publish, so they're still surprised surprised. Hey, what? You're a Grenadian? You have a book? You know? So come down and meet us in Grenville or in St. George's, and we'll talk to you. And you have books for as gifts for Christmas. So that would be great. Thank you all the viewers for your patronage.
Thank you.
Thank you, the panel.
Thank you to David and the rest of members on the panel, and for the people like that have given me support, over the last couple of years with the book.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Yeah, we gotta do this. We gotta do this now and then. All right.
Sure.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. All right. All
You
the best.
too.
Okay. Bye bye.